So Frank is going to teach us, but Frank is just here, just temporary, and then I'm going to start working with you guys on different aspects of either through the knees or through the femur, the trochanters, working on standing. So even Frank, if I just touch him, do you see how he just shifts his weight? For every action, this is Newton's law, for every action there should be a reaction. So it doesn't matter how fine you touch something, that system should respond. Now that being said, again, because we have neurological input of judgment, quote, tight muscles, quote, cerebral palsy, quote, those reactions respond differently. So that's why, like I've been talking this week, even if someone has, let's say, a tumor of some sort, I can tell because I touch them, I should see those opposing reactions, even if it's minutely, or I should at least feel it. So if I go like this, if you slow-mode him, that's why I like him with the black background, you can still see with that light touch, even with the fingers, doing something like this. So when I'm working with a person, even for the first time, and I'm just doing that, and I just see that just minor response, I know I'm in the system. So when I'm not seeing it at all, you know, again, near drownings are really rough on me and so forth. But like again, if someone has cancer, tumors, and because I've worked with people literally who've had like a 2-pound tumor, like filled a petri dish, like not petri, but an operating bowl, and they had no idea that they're walking around with these kind of things. But the tumor mass will change the trajectory of the energy of the touch. Now I'm not talking energy, blue light energy. I'm talking about that when I touch, there's an energy that goes through the system, that movement, however you want to look at it. So if someone has a mass, or they're constipated, or they're in certain ways, that energy will be stagnant or go through that system differently. That's why cancer is so rough on the system, because cancer is an energy hog. So is a mitochondrial. So it'll take the way the body's feeding its nutrition and just say, it's all mine. So it's like grabbing your Snickers bar. Cancer loves sugars, and it's just saying, no one else can have my candy bar. That being said, then nobody has the candy bar. That means the other muscles don't get fed, and that's where cancer starts taking down the system, or mitochondrial, because it's using the energy differently. That's why a lot of people look into stuff like Gearson and whatever, go into a raw diet, because if cancer doesn't get sugar, it can't thrive, is the concept on that. And with that. So now, whether someone has cerebral palsy, or they're hypotonic, or they're typical, you also have to consider the growth patterns and where they are. So again, I had bars on my feet. So my knee, my femur goes like this way, where my shin goes this way. I mean, I'm totally askew through here. So the way that I transfer energy, and it's really apparent when I do karate, because when I do my kicks, the way my crooked legs are shows up, or like a horse stance. So my movements are going to be very particular to me. That being said, again, I say it all the time, even though I'm old, fat, whatever, I still can probably take it down a lot quicker than a 20-year-old it can, because I practice those movements. I'm not saying I'm the world's greatest person in Chung Kuk Do, that's far from it, but I'm just saying that I play with movement patterns differently than the average bear. So if I were being, let's say, attacked, or if someone wanted to even dance with me, whatever, I can go with it a lot differently than, you know, what do you want from me, and getting all spastic. And that could be just from getting up in the morning. I get up out of bed like a 3-year-old. I just go, oops, 5 o'clock, you know what I mean? And I get up. And people see me, you know, on the computers and stuff, like, what are you doing up so early? I don't need to process how to move. I don't need my coffee. I can just go do something. Whereas a lot of people have to go through a process just to start something. So that's a more obvious thing to look at, like cerebral palsy, or hypotonic, or having a large head, small head, whatever it happens to be. When you have to process or do something first to do a movement, you're now not being as efficient. You're not ready to go. And they do that in the Army and stuff, or in the service. They constantly drill into these guys. It doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m., 2 a.m. It's in a sense a form of brainwashing, but they want your system to be okay, let's go, you know, and they go at it with such adrenaline instead of saying, if you don't mind, when you're ready, can you please jump out of that, you know, airplane and attack, you know what I mean? It's just that. And that's a problem with post-traumatic stress, is that that system is still looking on that kind of thing. Do you need to get your phone? And what they do is they don't change the unit back into a human being. So when you're working with standing, whether it's from the foot, now this can be in laying down, it can be in sitting, or whatever. What I'm looking for when I'm thinking of working with a person in standing, now I don't care if that person's never stood before or they're a high-end athlete, I'm still looking for how they transfer the weight.
Can you play with the ball?
And that transfer of the weight is extremely stagnant, delayed, or hasn't even been introduced in a child with special needs because of the shift through the pelvis. So I'm going to do a bit more obvious through the foot, and you can just lightly see how just that touch through the foot will transfer the weight through the pelvis. Now, because Frank's hanging from his head, you know what I mean, it changes. He's not bearing weight on his feet. But I can just vary, you know, and you can see too. Now on this side, because of his scoliosis that I've made him present with, you can see how he transfers his weight differently from his pelvis, from his left side versus his right.
His knee goes more crooked or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the screws are off and whatever in the scoliotic, but those are just things to consider when you're working with a person or your client. It's just that instead of saying that you know, that person should be able to do crisscross applesauce, no problem. Well, you know, you've got to, if they have hip dysplasia or you know, that kind of thing, then no, they're gonna, or low tone, or they're just gonna present totally over the femur cavity. They're just gonna be different.
So would you hang out more on the right side then? If that's got a little more.
It all depends on
movement
what
deficit?
the person is. Usually I go for the good side first. So it depends on what you consider is the good side. So in this, the fact that the pelvis to me is more available, like to go into a walking, then yeah, I'd probably go with the right side first. That being said, if I'm working someone with like Donovan who's moving around all the time, and right now all I can get my hands on is the left side, I'm going for the left. But this side, see, like walking, see how the walking is not as clear because the way his pelvis is responding, let's say on Frank. Whereas on this side, see how the pelvis and the shift of the shoulders wants to come into there? You're gonna be so smart with the human body, huh? She's looking at him like, oh.
Arlie.
No. You don't need anything back there. So when I go to work with you guys, I'm going to work with everybody from Arlie to Donovan to you. I'm going to show what it's like to work with the knees and through the knees or through the femur and just start learning that feeling of that transfer of the weight.
Really?
Does that make sense through Frank? I mean, can you just see touch more obvious through him?
Yeah, I think so, and I can see where the reaction goes a lot easier, you know, like.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was on the left side. I see the pelvis turning up when you push the left foot up. I mean, I see his body turning, but that's because his head is like.
What's funny, what I think is great,
when you
the
push
more and
the-
more I'm touching with Frank, you can see Frank improving the more and more I'm touching him, and he's just a piece of plastic. So see how that's walking? Whereas if I'm here, see how he can't present for a walk. See how the spine and everything prevents that versus here? Now, it's not a typical walk because he's going right, instead of transferring to the left side, but again, because he's got a rod up his butt, he can't present left-right accent.
Donovan.
Yeah.
His ball was under the curve.
But anyway, the whole point of this too is not that there's a more appropriate side, less appropriate side. No! But the more, even with Frank, that you work with it, you're going to present changes or options. So even though this foot is so available going up, I might have the complete opposite of coming down to this foot. And that's where you get with toe walkers, where they feel that the stance is going through the ball of the feet, or you'll see sometimes, a lot of times, like say very hypotonic or Down syndrome, where they're quote walking on the heel. It's not that the hypotonia is wrecking the foot per se, but they haven't learned, let's say, that the access of walking or standing is through the entire foot, which is 26 bones. So all they know at this time is to present, it's not so much the flat, but the whole art of standing is only through here, or it's only through here. So it's the whole force of where the skeletal system is going through, is that they have a direct line through the toes, or the direct line through the heel. Now a lot of people will say, oh, that's sensory, or the this and that and the other, but I have found the more and more you just present with that system through the foot. See, now here I'm just touching here. So now my touch is underneath, let's say right at the base of the metatarsal, here, but I'm going, so it's not like I'm applying trigger points. What I'm looking for is how to influence the stand just through these small bones in the foot. So now that I have, see, he's already reacting so much more to my working on standing through the arch, that now I can present the heel to the arch, you know, or I can start going where I'm transferring that weight from the heel to the arch. So there's a lot of different ways to skin, even that this is walking, even though I'm not asking this person to present heel out and see how that walks. Because that's a more complex version of just this. So really, if a person can't just tap their foot, it's so funny how I'm getting, the knees are improving and it's plastic. And see, if I can't get this, I'm wasting my time with this. If I'm looking for the active walking. Now, I'm not wasting my time presenting the foot forward if now I'm looking to transfer the weight in this. So that's why you'll see me work this way, transferring the weight, this way, even too small, very hard to transfer the weight. I had an older client, she had a hip replacement. It made her knock knee, they didn't set the knees right. So after 3 children and 78 years of age, they said she's suffering from depression because she can't walk, and they wanted to put her on antidepressants. And it took me 3 seconds to realize she's knock-kneed, and at 78, you cannot stand up like this. You need to stand up where your head's in between your legs where I can get up. So she's like this, so I just manually had to just show her that if she separates her legs, now she can get up. But this position, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
she's
so
just too
unstable,
frail. Yeah, and too unstable. Now I can do it, no problem.
She
But
doesn't have
again,
the muscle anymore and it's up to overcome it.
when the mass supersedes the muscles, when you're working with a system more muscular based versus functional through the skeletal system, at some point the mass is going to supersede the muscles and the system's going to fail. But to take a woman, I said, ma'am, I said, you got dressed today, didn't you? And she's like, yes. I said, did you take a shower? And she's like, yes. And you came to hear a complete stranger? Yes. I said, you're not suffering from depression. I said, you're suffering from the case of wrong doctors. I said, if a doctor can't talk to you in a way that's appropriate to your needs, you need to get a second opinion. I said, but you don't have depression. Depressed person would have stayed in their covers and at the house saying, oh, you know, that's depression. So,
Yeah, I like that.
now, you still can have issues where the system's not working, and that's frustrating, and in a sense causing a depression-like symptoms, like, I mean, we went to 26 doctors with Graham,
Yeah.
you know, and we still don't have all the answers. Now I gotta go to a doctor on Monday, you know, for a new set of eyes. But I know people that have tried like 3 doctors, and it's like, oh, nobody can help me,
Yeah.
you know. But I really didn't understand why there wasn't a doctor out there that could help Graham. I just thought a doctor could fix you.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been really awakened from that one.
Yeah, I know, me too.